All right, welcome to Current Exposure. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? I am Shakima K. Thomas, your host. We have a special individual on this evening. We will be welcoming shortly Brother Quadeer Porter of Brothers Building a Better Nation. So, we'll be talking about the work that Brother Quadeer has been doing in the community. And also, we'll talk about the award that he received. I think it was let me double check that. It was the Unsung Heroes Russ Berry Awards. So let me bring Brother Quadeer on so he can go into details and explain what it is that he does, what his organization does here in the city of Newark. And people get into the comments. Feel free to ask questions. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for coming on and giving us the 411 and people in the comments the ability to ask questions about what it is that your organization does.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'll let you start off.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. As you noted, my name is Quadeer Porter, born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm the founder of an organization, nonprofit called Brothers Building a Better Nation. And essentially, what we are is a nonprofit organization looking to really take away any things that are causing, men of color within the ages of 16 to 29. So the brothers are in that
Okay.
age group. Any things that's causing them that are roadblocks,
Okay.
whether it is a criminal history, whether it is substance abuse, or whether it's trying to get your degree or certification or something, and they just hit a roadblock for some reason, and that's causing them to
Mhm.
either participate in things that are causing self harm or causing harm to others. We want to really
Wow.
re-engage them and bring them back into the community by number one, offering them free therapy. And we collaborated with Rutgers
Huh.
uh, Adolescent Youth and Young Adult Medicine Department. They give
Okay.
free primary care, free therapy. We help them with job training. We work with them one on one with getting them in interview preparation and also
Mm.
coaching. And
Wait a minute. I'm
yes,
sorry to cut you off. So you work with the men one on one. It's not
yes,
like they go to like this workshop and they're sitting in a classroom with somebody sitting at the front telling them all the things that they need to have to be able to be in the workforce. This is one on one. This
right,
isn't like it's like, what do you call those job preparation meals where they really don't prepare you, but they just have a bunch of people in the room
right.
with the hope that this is going to help them when it doesn't. I'll let you finish because I like that whole one-on-one style, because one size does not fit all, especially when you're talking about developing resumes and really digging into the person's mind about what their skills are.
Absolutely. There's a model that I found that I implemented in the organization when I
Okay.
founded it last year called direct intervention, and that's
Okay.
basically when you're going there and actively engaging with the community and looking. So you're not telling them to go to somewhere and find me at my desk and stuff like that. We go there out to the community, to the streets, and we actually engage with the brothers and let them know what we're about. And if they're interested about joining our organization to help them get to the next level. And that leads to your other point as well, where when we're engaging with them and we're talking with them, the first thing
Mhm.
that we start with is therapy. A lot of these brothers are going through a lot of very traumatic experiences in their lives, and a lot of the programs that are out
Wow.
there for job training, they do focus on the employment sense, but they don't focus on the mental health sense. And without
Mm.
them on a mental health level, that's setting them up to fail, because if they don't start building solid habits to know how to interact with others and how to be able to know how to handle situations that are highly stressful, then they're going to recidivate back into what they know how to do, and which it could be very detrimental to their lives and the community.
Wow, that's deep. So what made you bring in that mental health piece to this equation? Because I've seen the resume mills, the workshops that really do nothing, and people are forced to go to these workshops because they're told if you don't do it, you can't get your benefits, you can't get your bus cards. But like you said, if my mind isn't right, and then I'm going to a workshop that's really not helping me
Right,
and kind of putting pressure on me
right,
to be something or someone to in the community that I'm not used to being. Like, what made you think about bringing that piece in? Because nobody really talks about that. It's like you either sit here and you do this resume in this workshop or you don't. And if you fail, because I agree that's a setup for failure, but if you fail, that's on you and not us. But it's like your program, your workshop mill is ineffective.
right. What essentially made me what made me thought about it was that when I was in high school, there was a program called Unknown Sons, and it's
Okay.
basically a support group that helped young men who had. I went to all boys school, St. Benedict's Prep, and essentially was a
Nice.
support group for a lot of us who may have issues with either our parents, either we were either abandoned or whether our parents was active in our lives. And so that was my first introduction really into therapy.
Oh,
I had a lot of mental health issues when I was growing up and when I was inside of high school, and so I had to go to therapy, and that's what opened me up, and I seen the value in it. Now,
mm-hmm.
fast forward till now, when I was because how I really started the program was I was asking the young brothers what they needed. I literally went up to them and asked them like, what are some of the things that you guys need? And one of the things that they said in their own way was that we need somebody to talk to that we can trust and everything.
Okay.
And when they were a lot of times trying to go through these job programs, there was nobody listening to them. And
Right.
I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor, and I knew the value of it. And so I integrated that with the program to kind of have that be step one, because
Mm-hmm.
when they feel as though they have somebody listening to them and it actually, and I asked them too, I said, well, have you ever thought about seeing a therapist be interested in it? They was like, yeah, a lot of people have
Wow.
the stigma that black people don't want healthcare, black people don't want therapy, where they
Right.
actually do, because there's a lot of weight that we carry on our shoulders on a daily basis. But the access to getting therapy and and especially therapists that look like us is very hard, because also being, a
Mm.
black and everything, we have to navigate in a world that a lot of times doesn't look like us, and so sometimes going with a therapist that doesn't really know our experiences as
Right.
Americans or our backgrounds, what we have to is a piece of that as well. So that's why it's so important for us to find therapists who can engage with the clients and not make them feel as though that they are talking at them.
Right.
Whether engaging with them to troubleshoot what's the root of what's causing these habits that's causing them harm. And so
Mm.
that's really where it came from. It came from my experience, and then also just their feedback of what they need. And that's really how we got that first foundational piece there.
Wow. I like that, getting their feedback. So they're essentially a part of the process of self development,
Right.
which,
Absolutely.
a lot of times I see people cut people out of their own process. And they're like, I know what's good for you, I know what you need. And it ends up being ineffective. It's like, yeah, I need a job, but I need therapy too.
Right.
And people are like, well, you're not working hard enough to get that job, you're not doing what you need. And it's more to it than just that. And I wanted to know, I like the fact that you have that therapy built into your program. And I want to know, do the guys feel like when you're setting them up with therapy and exposing them, do they feel like therapy is just something to determine whether they're crazy or not, or do they see the value like you did? And I agree with you. Like, I see the value in therapy as a means to self-development and growth. So do the guys immediately recognize that, or do they feel apprehensive in a sense that, oh, I don't need a therapist, I'm not crazy, I'm good? And it's not about that. It's about looking inside and figuring out, connecting with yourself, really. So what's your experience with that, and when you're trying to expose the men to therapy and
Absolutely.
self-healing?
Absolutely. And so the first thing that what happens is that when we break down about what is our collaboration, our connection with that department, and we
Mm-hmm.
tell them the reasoning behind it. We're very open and honest with them, and I tell them about a lot about my experiences and things that I was going through, and tell them about
Okay.
it's hard to continue a journey when you have so much baggage weighing you down. I said,
Yes.
this is a support system. We're not sending you out to some kind of crazy house that locks you away. We want you to even get more free than what you are. And the trauma that you're holding on to is keep you in a cage.
Mm.
So we articulate like how therapy is in that,
Wow.
but we also let them know that there's different forms of therapy. There's music therapy. There's working out. There's going on walks.
Oh,
Like we go
wow.
walk sometimes in Eagle Rock Park or reservations and stuff like that. We expand their mind of what it means to be in therapy and even in group therapy. Like we have group therapy as well. We sit down, we talk, and so this expounds their thought process and reasoning of it. Because when you see on TV and look at these movies, there's this person with a pad and they're writing it down,
Exactly.
and we break that and everything, and we introduce them to like the adolescent youth development place, and they all of them love it. We've had the
Wow.
first cohort with three brothers, with three young men. All three of them loved it. All three of them always call that place. It was a fourth young man that was initially going to go in there, but he moved and came back, so he's looking to re-enter to the program. All of them love going there because, number one, they're so used to being judged a lot
Right.
of times. And when you break it down and say like these people are legally binded to, number one, not say anything unless it deals with self harm and stuff like that, that's huge for them because it's privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are all the different benefits. I think a lot of times is that when people are trying to get people involved in stuff like this, they articulate in a way that it brings a stigma versus trying to
Right.
open it up and really say like, hey, listen, right now you're in a situation where you feel trapped, you feel like you're in a cage. Um, and what we were trying to do, we're trying to build up a team around you to help free you from that. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
going to take you to go through some of these different things to get to that space. And once you really reach them down to that, to the crux of what they really want, which is freedom and independence, then you're able
Right.
to have them be willing. And that's how you build that trust and camaraderie.
Wow, I like that. Let me get into the comments. Welcome everyone. We have Deborah Salters. She says, listen, if anyone needs therapy in healthcare, it's the black man and woman. The suffrage of slavery and degradation that we have gone through and still go through today. And then Mayo Keenan says the black communities have always maintained a stigma about getting therapy. Most see it as a weakness. And I agree with what Mayo Keenan is saying, because when I speak about therapy, people always jump to the conclusion of it's the person with the pad and they're taking notes and they're going to tell you at the end whether they're going to give you a diagnosis of whether you're crazy, you're depressed, or you have ADHD, or whatever.
Right.
Something that you really don't want to hear or look forward to, because who wants to get evaluated and judged
Right.
all over again after going through what people we go through in society? And I'm like, that's not what therapy is about. And I like how
Right,
you broke it down. Even with, this is a personal experience with my son. We do different activities together.
right,
And the other parent thinks, oh, he's having too much fun. He did something wrong. But no, it's really therapy, and it's really redirecting. It's not, and it'll be something like taking a walk in South Mountain Reservation
right,
to get him to clear his mind, think, break things down, and understand what he did was unacceptable.
right,
And we do end up having fun,
right.
you
It's
know.
all
It
about what's
okay,
a healthy way to get to your happy place. You know,
exactly,
what's a healthy way for you to make sure that you can get away from the negativity, and while at the same time, get some of that stress off your shoulders instead of building it all up. Um,
right,
and a lot of the brothers throughout the time, have built up different walls, because number one, a lot of times, it says a black man, you're taught not to either cry or show emotion. It's weakness. And especially when
yes,
you're at the areas where they're at, the any hint of you being what they quote as either soft, or the people take advantage of you,
right,
but on another note, as well as what some of your people that's watching was saying, is that historically, even in the medical healthcare system, there's been deep-seated racism and ignorance
mm,
that's caused us harm. A lot of our fear for the medical community and hospitals is also rooted in our mistreatment there. If
mm.
there's a book called Medical Apartheid, it's written by Harriet Washington, and it talks
Okay,
the dark side of medical experimentation done to people of color. Um,
wow,
and one of the things it talks about is the origins of even gynecology. Uh,
right, right,
Gynecology was originated by practicing on slaves with no adhesive, with no not adhesive, I'm sorry, with no kind of anesthetic or nothing to numb the pain, because they believed
right,
black people and black women didn't feel pain. So they killed so many black women and
wow,
tortured them, and so that they could operate on white women, they could perfect the craft for it. And then
wow,
you had John Hopkins, where he used to kidnap black people just from the street and do experimentations on them. They found all
wow.
burials of black bodies and black bones underneath of John Hopkins Hospital, where they did
Oh,
they were called night riders, I believe. The Henrietta Lacks book just talks about that. So a lot of times, especially if you come from the South, there's so much hesitancy with engaging with the healthcare community, Tuskegee experiment, go on and on, um,
right,
that is ingrained in us, that initial fear. They've
yeah,
been shown genetically how racism and slavery, that anxiety and that has been ingrained even in our genetic code and everything. Um,
okay.
and that bubbles up to different areas like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stress, all these different things that
Oh, wow,
cause stressors and stuff like that. It's ingrained in our DNA because all the trauma that we've had through generation through generation through generation. And
mm-hmm,
so it's interesting when you look at and I studied public health in college. So that was one of the reasons why I was so interested with this fact, why it's so dear to me, about why we might not be as engaged as we need to be when it comes to the medical community, because
right,
still to this day have not really earned the trust of the black community, and just the big gap there is when it comes to people of color having medical care that's comparable,
right,
and that's physicians that look like us, can empathize like us, is lacking. But thankfully, the dean of UMD, Rutgers, I'm sorry, I keep calling UMD&J, but the Rutgers Medical School is a black man.
mm-hmm.
He's a
Oh,
black
really?
man. He actually sees the brothers. His name is Dr. Robert Johnson. He
Oh,
sees them
wow,
as a primary care physician. And that's what really bothers the men, because a lot of times they're like, you're telling me I'm not only seeing a black doctor and therapist, but I'm seeing the dean, the person who is the boss of the school. That's what really, really keeps them engaged, because
wow,
they're able to see themselves in him. So I definitely understand. I want to just tell your viewership that I definitely understand why there's a lack of trust in the medical system, and that there definitely needs to be some wrongs righted. I can even go on about how even in the mental health field, how black people
Yeah.
are misdiagnosed at a higher clip for schizophrenia, and when
Hmm.
things like bipolar disorder or depression. And
Exactly.
why is it so toxic? Because when you give a person who's not schizophrenic medication, it permanently is very highly
Mhm.
toxic and potent, that medication.
Right.
And so, even in the mental health field, people of color aren't safe, and we have to be guarded, because a lot of times our mental health facilities are in low income areas,
Right.
FQHCs, federally qualified healthcare centers, and they don't have comparable care. They just write you up, and so I mean, I could go on and on, but with that background knowledge, I also see and understand and able to engage with the brothers on, hey, listen, I know that you're worried about going to the hospital, and I
Right.
know that you're worried about going there and stuff like that. But I understand it on this point, and we can make sure that you have a visit that's supportive. And once you see the people there, you'll know how much they care. So we definitely do have to battle against that trust factor of the healthcare system. But thankfully, I have experience of that. I'm able to engage them on that level.
Wow. So, well, let's see. Mayo Keenan says people do wrongfully assume that you have a mental illness. And she said therapy goes far beyond mental illnesses. There are physical and emotional issues that require therapy. Many people cannot recognize their need for professional help. And that's the scary part.
Right.
And even with the misdiagnosis,
Yes.
people out there believing they're schizophrenic when they're not,
Right.
and they're taking lithium, and now their brain and their body is being
Yes.
altered unnecessarily, which may in turn be causing more issues.
Right.
um so yeah, this is like pretty scary when you're trying to find out how do I pick a therapist, and who can I trust. Is it, do you guys, do you have like some type of methodology for that, or
Mhm.
is it you just gotta trust and see what happens type of situation?
When it comes to when they're seeking a therapist and getting them there, how are we able to find the right one? You mean?
Right, right.
Right. Right.
But because how do you like get them to interact, engage when there's a trust issue? Because I know if I don't trust something, I don't care what you tell me. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if it's somebody in my family. How do you overcome that trust barrier?
Right, and that's when they're on board and they're talking to me and they see the program and they see the breakdown, is being very open and transparent with them and everything.
Mm,
Because
okay.
a lot of times they're the ones that's coming to us and everything. So when somebody's coming to you asking for help, they're at a stage where they are where they're willing to try something.
Okay.
So when I met the three young men who was first going to the program, they said, "Listen, I'm not doing. It's nothing out here for me right now. I want something different." So when it comes
Okay.
in, they're open minded. Now, of course, throughout the process, they kind of get like a little like wary, because it's like, all right, this is week 6, this is week 7. I don't
Okay.
have my own apartment, I have my own job, I don't have X, Y, and Z. But that's why we explain milestones. We explain with them like, hey, listen, this is where you're at. This is some of the wins you had. Like, you've gotten your driver's license. We've gotten you some court dates to settle your tickets.
Wow.
Your interviews are set for this date, and you've met these people so far. You got to let them know that like this process will take as long as they take to get certain things right. Because a lot of times
Okay.
they look to skip to like the end result. They're like,
Right, right,
week 2, I'm going to be working and stuff. So I'm like, yes, we can definitely put you at a job, but how did that work before? How do we change this habit and everything?
right.
And then they buy in, and then we also engage them with the living stipend to make sure they can carry on, and they can, like, they're not like looking out there trying to find money and everything, and they're like struggling. But on this all way, we always do the group therapy sessions weekly. We engage with them. I talk to them like pretty much every other day, and that
Okay.
engagement and that encouragement and them meeting, like either we engage with volunteers, like a volunteer organizations, like food banks and everything,
Uh-huh.
to kind of get them reconnect with the community. That's how
Okay.
they're able to start trusting the process and starting to trust things. Because when they start seeing their resume start to be printed out, when they start seeing that,
Uh-huh.
oh, I'm starting to see, like, now the stipend is coming in. Now I'm
Okay.
able to have a bank account. We're talking
Okay.
about credit. Like these small little milestones is important. And the funny thing is that there was one time they was really getting frustrated with me because it was like quite we've been in this for 7 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get a job and stuff like that. I said, okay, perfectly fine. I said, we'll get you some job interviews, and we got some job interviews next week. They was very surprised by that, and went to the
Wow.
job interview. And it's funny because I was sitting there with the director of human resources, and they froze. They froze. They really didn't know how to answer the questions.
Wow.
Had a little bit of weed in their system and stuff like that, and they didn't get some of the stuff that I needed them to get done. And
Wow.
they said, like, I still, you guys are great, because number one, from 6 7 weeks from getting therapy to right now, they became leaps
Right.
and bounds. But it was like at that interview, and they saw if they left there, they saw that I could have been getting paid $60,000 to $65,000 and stuff like that.
Wow. So they learned from that.
Well, yeah, of course, and everything,
And
and
that's the real world too. That's
right.
what happens.
So you got to show them a lot of times.
Right.
You got to show
Right.
them because a lot of people have given them pipe dreams. So like, oh, if you do this, then this will happen and stuff like that. And I was perfectly fine with meeting the challenge. And when
Right.
they were able to sit there and they see it, they was able to kind of ponder and be like, now I kind of see why you asked me to get my driver's license first, or why you asked me to get this court case settled, or why you needed me to kind of cut down on the marijuana and the weed and stuff like that and everything. It wasn't because you just trying to dictate my life and it's like
Right.
days because you try to get to this point, because I said like, hey, listen,
Yeah.
y'all fumbled the bag, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You guys had it right there. And they were just like, oh, I really messed up. And so they got it together. And then they tell the other guys in the community, and the other guys' community buys in. So it goes like that. You gotta
Wow.
do action. People won't believe words, they believe in action.
And I like how you took them through that so they could see this is real life. This is the real world, and you're not going to get things instantly. There's not going to be like instant gratification, and we give you a job, set you up, and you're good. No, you gotta like jump over some hurdles, and if you miss that hurdle,
Mm-hmm.
you have to do some self reflection and go back to the sandbox
Yep.
or the drawing board or whatever wherever they go to rethink what they're doing and also evaluate what they tried that didn't work
Yeah.
to even come up with something where like you said there are milestones, there's certain things I need to get, I gotta slow down with the weed smoking or whatever. Yeah, like that's
And the funny thing is, I tell them, I said, listen, like, this is, y'all organization, really. Like, this organization was built from your feedback by you guys. And honestly, all of us really work for you. You know what I'm saying? You guys are
right.
leaders. You guys are, when you guys do better, the community do better. And so
Wow.
a lot of times they don't hear that. They always hear about feel like somebody's kind of going over them. But if you look at it, us nonprofits, we're working for the community. When somebody,
Mm-hmm.
a client asking for help, we're working for them because we see the
Right.
potential in them and we want to do better. And so by reempowering, reaffirming, like, listen, all of us is basically your staff. You let us know what you need, and it's our job to work for you and get you to where you're right way. But it's going to take that's going to take for you to initiate these things and start them and work on some of these things yourself. And once you start
Wow.
getting into that mindset that, all right, these people aren't trying to boss over me, they're trying to support me and uplift me, but I can't continuously try to ask them to support me and uplift me, or I'm making things heavier. I got to make things
Right.
lighter and work and engage. So it's
Wow.
us as a team. You got to bring that's why we call them brothers instead of really clients, is that, you have to be actively engaged with this process, because, it all draws from you and your want to do better. And once you really get on that level and everything, and just keep on empowering them that way, they stop seeing themselves more as a person that's asking and begging, but more of them as operating something. And they're
Okay.
steering the ship, which is themselves. And we're just, passengers on the ship that's just trying to make sure the ore is right, the anchor
Right.
needs to, and stuff like that. And so once you put them in there, that gives them a lot of freedom and control. And that gives them a lot more. That makes them feel as though, like, yo, listen, then you're right. I'm the master of this ship. I'm the captain. I got to
Mhm.
make sure to dictate where it goes and everything. And I want it to go into a nice tropical island, not a storm.
Right.
Um, all those kind of words of affirmation and those things really helps empower them to kind of move on to the right route.
Wow. So it's like having. Do they see the value in having this support team? Because
Oh,
that's what it's like, a support team.
yeah,
I wish I had that. I wish I
yeah,
had like four people that I could call up and say, I need to get such and such done, and they're on me and holding me accountable and making
hmm,
sure I'm doing those things. That do
yeah.
they see that value?
Oh no, of course not. They're like 20, they're like 16, 20, 22, 24. When I was that age, I couldn't see my left from my right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, because they met like a district court judge, they met a lawyer, they met like COOs and stuff like that, and everything, and it was all coming to them, and it was just like, wow, and everything. And there was a, but I still
Oh,
need money. I said, bro, if you just like do initiative and float it to one of these people, they'll get you. Like, they really didn't. That's the thing we also learned as well, is that you can give a lot of people tools, but you got to also teach them how to use the tools and build them up to be able
wow.
to utilize them as well. Because there's certain parts of our life where we need certain people to be in there to help us take us to that next level. Like at this
Mhm.
stage of my life, at the stage of my life right now, I'm at a place where I don't need a job, I don't need income, I need mentorship and tutelage and everything to take
Okay.
me to that next level. When I was 21, I needed money, I needed a job, I didn't know how bills was going to be paid.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we were teaching them, is that whenever you go to the next level in this next stage, you need to start surrounding yourself with people that can help push you there. They were able to skip a few of those things and find people that when you kind of get to that stage of stability, they don't
Right.
want to elevate you to the next level. But that was to really show them that, number one, there's people of color that's in seats of power that can help change your life and stuff like that. But you have to do the groundwork to get to that level where you can properly use those resources, and you can really able to do that to unlock, your next stage, like wherever that's going to be at. Um,
Right.
and so no, of course not. When they're like, they still ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, Qual, what's going on? Like, did you call like X, Y, and Z?" And like one of them had like a legal question that they asked me. I said, "You met a district court judge that's been appointed by Barack Obama. Why are you calling me for legal advice?" It's like, I don't know how to engage with that person. Like
Wow.
what he really said was that, like, well, I don't, like, why would call him up? We don't really have that kind of, like,
Right. Right.
but that's the thing, is that they just don't know how to engage, and they don't know how to use the resource. They get worried that people are going to feel as
Wow.
though they're going to be, like, either talked down upon. But I said, everybody that you met are volunteer to help out because they want to see you live and everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's on board. And when they hear that they want to see me live, they was, that kind of really breaks it open. They say, "What do you mean they volunteered?" I said, "Yeah, they asked me to participate in this program." Or if I did call them and ask them for like a guide, they
Mhm.
wanted themselves to be that and everything. They made time. And so when you let them know that their time is special and their purpose on this world, whatever it is special, that kind of breaks it up, because I've told them since the beginning of this program, there's dozens of people that can't wait to see you and meet you, because they want to help. And
Right.
they don't believe that until they start meeting the people, and that or it really breaks it apart. Because if I told you right now, there are 5 people that are dying to meet you and can't wait to, like, help when they're
Uh-huh.
going. You're like, "Well, where were these 5 people 20 years ago, or like 10 years ago?"
Right.
They are,
Right.
but they're
Right.
there. They're there. It's just, you meeting them and engaging in them, and knowing, also having certain like boundaries of people that you shouldn't meet and people you should meet.
Wow.
That's the
And
important.
how do the brothers feel when they meet? Like, what are their reactions from your observation when they actually meet the judge that doesn't want them to go to prison,
Right. It
that
was
wants them to succeed? Like, do what does that look like? I'm so curious about that.
Oh yeah, they're in shock. Because once again, they're used to being told something and then being let down. Like,
Right.
if I told you, "Hey sis, we're gonna go see a district court judge that's probably is in line to see like to be in the Supreme Court," you're gonna be like, "All right, Qua, all right, fine." First of all, Quad, if you know this person, why aren't you at some kind of Beverly Hills place and stuff like that? Myself, um, I'm a part of a fraternity, thank goodness. I'm a member of I'm a brother of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and there's a
Okay.
big network of us and stuff like that. I mean, there's people that are all over the place and stuff like that. But
Uh-huh.
we contact one another on like a basis of brotherly. You know what I'm saying? We don't.
Right.
It's not always what we need. And so when it first met him, Judge Michael Schiff, he's an amazing brother and everything. And we went to I think it was Trenton, where he has two offices, one in Trenton, I think one in maybe somewhere else in New Jersey. And he was
Okay.
in his chambers, and he was actually in his room where he like does his work, and he met his staff and
Wow.
stuff like that. He was like, "Yo, I'm really in the judges, like in a judge's place." And there's a picture of me and the president, him, the president, vice president, stuff like that. And they first of all, they all had some legal things that I wanted them to ask him about and stuff like that to get his feedback. And
Right.
it was just like shocked because he bought him pizza. He sat down with them
Wow.
about his journey, how much he wants them to do well. And it's once again, he's like, why does this person who's at this high seat care so much about my life and everything? And it's letting them know that there's so many people out there that wants them to do well and that wants the community to do well, and we're just waiting to meet you. And you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You have to live for them to be able to meet you. And when meaning live, that means make the right decisions to
Mm-hmm.
those that put you in harm's way. That's where the whole lesson that we try to teach them comes full circle.
Wow. And why this sounds like something that should be happening in school, or if it's not at home, the school would be picking up on doing something like this. What do you think about that? Because it's like somewhere the ball was dropped where the brothers are just out in the street doing things that's really essentially making their lives more difficult, but they don't necessarily see it that way yet. They just see it as they're living. They think that is living and they're having fun. But
Yes.
it's not. But then when well, I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, school is tricky. You have so many different things thrown at you while you're in school, especially in high school. A lot of them first start smoking weed or got engaged in like these kind of like in the behaviors that was detrimental to them starting there. And it
Wow.
really started there from there. Because of course you're trying to be in the in crowd. You might be having
Yeah.
issues at home. A lot of them come from backgrounds and with either this was just them with their mom, or if their dad was in their life, it wasn't like a very positive connection. And so they're trying to find what it means to be a man in sometimes the wrong space of young men who just need to
Oh.
know what it really means to be men, because they're all like 18 to 17. Someone's 21, 22
Wow.
of them saw that sometimes one of these guys first people that really helped them was either a dealer or somebody that was in the streets to either pay for lunch or help
Mm-hmm.
give them that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that purpose. Because one of them commented that like, listen, I grew up with all girls around me, all my sisters and my mom, and I was babysitting my little brother. And then when I'm around these guys and stuff like that, shows me how to be tough and all these other kind of things. Like, they build relationships
Okay.
and bonds. When you're in
Wow.
school, sometimes you get. I mean, when I was in school, there was a lot of sometimes fighting going. I went to both a public and private school.
Okay.
So sometimes schools, can be a rough place to kind of get some engagement because you sometimes don't see a lot of positivity. Um,
Right. Right.
Also,
Okay.
alumni who are doing well sometimes don't go back to the schools and do mentorship and guidance and stuff like that. So it's a lot going on with schools. And then the schools have different like things they're trying to do. They're trying to hit numbers. They're trying to look at the statistics. Their teachers trying to keep their jobs. You have
Right.
kids coming out of in and out of detention centers and everything. There's a book. It's about black women, but it's so important. Monique Morris's book about Push Out. Uh,
Okay.
Push Out talks about how the criminalization of the black girls in schools and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I gotta check that out.
Oh, it's an awesome book. Monique Morris is also one of my heroes and everything because I've seen her talk live, and it really like I never knew what black girls specifically went through in school, um,
Okay.
how they feel. Not because I didn't care, but because I'm
Right.
privileged about being a man. I could walk outside right now, 11 o'clock p.m., go down the street, not even thinking about it and stuff like that.
Right.
Nobody comes up to me and ever like approaches me and stuff like that or threatens me and everything of that nature. Um,
Mm.
black girls, no matter if you're 23 or 43, a lot of times you have to pack some pepper spray. Might got to, pack
Yeah.
a weapon on you.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
keep in touch with like who's trying to follow you and stuff like that and everything.
That's
Yes,
true.
if you're walking in a nice suburban area and stuff like that, you got to be on high alert. You know, and it's those things and those privileges that men take for granted. And while a lot of times
Wow.
there's so much disassociation with black black women saying like, hey, listen, I need support in X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times us men just saying like, oh, here she go again, like, oh god, she's just she's never satisfied. But if you had to literally every time you walk out the door in broad daylight fear for your life, or fear
Yeah.
that cat calling is going to turn to something
Yeah. Deadly.
violent and everything,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe washing dishes is that one thing that snapped and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because once you have the privilege of being able to walk outside, or when you're wearing like regular shorts that everybody else is wearing, but
Right.
all of a sudden it's like, oh man, wow. Well, first of all, you either can't wear that, or it's oh well, you're looking voluptuous and stuff like that.
Wow.
Like those small little things that women have to adjust and have to just kind of have to take balls over to a point that once again men don't really have to know or care about. They
That's
just have
true.
laws in some places where you have to have female products in the bathrooms and everything.
Right.
When a lot of men just like, well, female products, it's just pads, stuff like that, X, Y, and Z. It's a natural
Oh.
thing that happens to women that if we didn't have toilet tissue in our bathrooms, we'll be distraught and everything. But you don't have female products in there. You know what I'm saying? It's those small things that men take for granted that
That's
really
true.
open my eyes and really made me have to really help mold my thinking as well. And that I really just I think about when even in the schools. So when I go into the schools, I know that the children are going through all those little microaggressions that they have to go through, and now when they go into the
Wow.
world, they're now having to face even more, not even microaggressions,
Right.
they're blatant. And how do they really articulate that?
That's impressive that you've went that far to understand what young women go through too. And then it's like we're interacting with each other. The young men, the young women, all this chaos
Right.
stirring up that we don't see but we know when we feel and it's there. It explains a lot of why, yeah, there's a lot of aggression,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a necessity of a program like yours too.
Yes, because a lot of them, all of them that was in our first cohort that we brought out, all of them was living with black women, either their mom or an aunt.
Wow.
It's,
Mm.
I grew up, I was raised with my grandmother, and then after my grandmother, I was raised by my mom. My aunt played a big portion in my life. And when I was growing up, I was like, well, I wonder why a lot of the men are not, doing well and stuff like that, X, Y, and Z. Number one is because of privilege. I mean, racism and all those things. You go back to like, how they tried to, break the black male and slavery and stuff like that. That's one thing. But nothing that I saw and everything is that number one, when black women give birth, that baby stays with them. There's no
Okay.
ifs, ands, buts about it a lot of times. And 90% of the situations that you have, we look at statistics, the numbers, CDC, and stuff like that. And so a lot of times black women have to mature and grow up. They're in charge with another life and everything,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And then you also have the court system, how it plays out with custody. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the important point that I want to just point out is that when I go into a lot of these brothers' homes and everything, I have to make sure I let either the mom, the girlfriend, the aunt, whoever the case may
Mhm.
be, that I see them, and I know that as much stuff as they're going through, they're probably going 2 or 3 times more because they're the
Wow.
one that has to pay the bill. They're the ones
Right.
that have to feed them. They're the one that got to wake them up. They're the ones
Right.
that they change the Pampers a lot of times when it was younger to now, and so they've put
Yeah.
in all this work, and now he's in this situation where he doesn't want to get up and get a job. He's always getting fired. He's having mental health issues and stuff like that. Where she says, "Listen, all the trauma you're having, Tuh, I'm
Yeah.
having to deal with it 3 or 4 times in fold." But
Right.
the young man is looking at it like, well, you don't understand me. So it's that disconnect and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's why I
Wow.
want to be a mediator and saying that I see you and I see you. Let's try to
Mm.
look at each other's window and let's try to see how can we merge these worlds and move forward. But that's why it's so important to have the engagement of the
Wow.
caretaker. And a lot of times these young men have caretakers, and engaging with the caretaker and having them involved in the program early on is important as well. Because if they're not seen and if they don't feel as though they're supported, then the whole thing gets messed.
Yes.
It's not going to work. Um,
That's true.
and so that's why it's so important that we understand what suffrage the black woman is going through, because a lot of times they're the ones that's really still taking care of the young men.
Wow. So do you think black women in that situation have suffered in silence, that
Yes.
they just assume
Hmm.
that the young man, the young brother sees what they're going through? Because it's like, you've been here since day one. I've been raising you all this time. Like, I would imagine some women thinking that, and I'm thinking myself too.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm raising a little guy,
Yep.
but he doesn't get it unless I explain it to him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And as kids, we don't see the sacrifice that our parents are making. We
Right.
don't really understand what it is to like have to pay the rent, pay like the PSE&G bill, pay the
Yeah,
get the groceries, what things you have to do, the things that sometimes that woman had to do in the background that kid will never see or know about, but that she had to either stand in line in that line to get either food uh,
exactly.
and stuff like that to
Right.
try
She
and
could have
see.
been standing there for
Right,
5 hours while
right,
the young brother was in school.
right. And some of them go to school, some of them baby in tow, and it's all that collective pain that's collected. They don't have therapy. A lot of time, they have postnatal care. A lot of them,
Right.
probably, some of them had abuse when they was younger. Nobody ever asked them, are they okay? You know,
Right.
and still to this day, nobody do. Some of them have boyfriends and stuff like that that's around, and you know never ask like, hey, how are you doing, how are you feeling, what's going
Exactly.
on. That decades of being invisible and stuff like that, feeling invisible, it wears and tears of somebody. And I think that's
Yeah.
the important thing, that when you engage with a woman of color, is that you got to let them know that, number one, you're seen, and I want to more understand what's going on in your world, because you've probably been suffering in it alone for a long time. um,
Right.
when you read the black female suffrage books, when it came to the black, the feminist movement and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
in the feminist movement and stuff like that, when they try to get the women's rights, white feminism was just like, hey, what can us white women get? Black women pushed aside. Civil rights movement, the black, male power movement, stuff like that,
Right.
was pushed aside and everything. It was never a time where everybody kind of coalesced around a black woman, like, hey, let's get you pushed right here and stuff like that. And that suffrage and silence has to stop. And for
Right.
our program, it's important for us to recognize that, because once again, we wouldn't be here without Black women. They gave birth to us, they
Mhm.
supported us while we was there. Even when you feel as though they didn't do everything that they could have, we have to really recognize, and to tell the young guys there, a lot of times our parents do the best that they know how.
Right. Well, what they know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have to approach from a place of forgiveness and openness, and be able to talk through those things, so that we can meet our moms where they're at, and make sure that we get our own place and everything, so that we can fully engage with this conversation and this relationship. Because you staying there to your 30 or 40 is going to cause even more drama. Get your own
Yeah.
place, become self-sufficient, and then you're able to engage your mom as an adult, and then be able to grow from there.
Wow. That's a unique position that your organization has over other ones that I've seen throughout the city. And I'm not saying it because you're right here in my face, but seriously, there's no other program that offers what you offer and how you offer it, and that comes with the knowledge that you have. You're knowledgeable about what women are going through, not just what men are going through. You're knowledgeable about suffrage movements, that all the things that play into what impacts the young brother. You're knowledgeable about that. And yeah, that's unique.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, it's when you're trying to engage in this kind of work, it's important to look at what are some of the templates that worked in the past. What are some of the things like the Black Muslims, when it comes
Oh
to
wow.
the Nation
Yes.
of Islam. As much as I don't, of course, agree with like the whole totality, I was very, very, curious about their model, how they were able to get some of these brothers either straight from prison, or these guys that had severe substance abuse issues, and then have such high success rates. I mean, if you read some of like the journals, and you read some of like the academic published publications on them, and you've seen how these some people's either strung out. I mean, you could talk about their religious dogma and how they try to do brainwashing, but there was more to that and everything. And when you were able to read, I think it's called C. Eric Lincoln, or Eric C. Lincoln's book about Black Muslims, and you read about how when they were trying, when the brothers were coming to intake and stuff like that, how they helped
Mhm.
them detox, how they
Right.
talked about Black businesses, how they empowered them and made them see how they were visible and stuff like that, and
Yes.
everything, and how they taught them entrepreneurship by selling bean pies, and like the Nation of Islam letters and stuff like that. Those elements work and stuff like that.
Yes.
Take some of those elements and stuff like that, and ingrain it into a program where it evolves, where no matter who you are, openness, let's come around, build each other, and take
Mhm.
those building blocks from there. It was important for me to see the historical references, as well as academic articles, and of course background knowledge about some of the suffers we've been through, and ingrain
Right.
it in there, because that's how you really able to craft and create a program that can have some kind of success and everything, because you don't want to just start off and just wing it and everything. You want to at least
Right.
have some kind of foundation and some kind of skeleton.
Wow. Wow. This is pretty good. So how can brothers get into your program? How can, people interact with your organization if they want to donate? I did post the link here to your website. It I have www.buildabetterNation.org.
Yes,
Okay, right here on the screen.
yes. The form to donate there as well, and so people can donate
Okay,
online. They can engage, be a volunteer with us. They can right through our website, also on social media, Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, and also you can reach out to me directly. You can look me
okay,
up on Instagram, and engage with me directly. Right now, we had our launch event a few weeks ago at Rutgers. We pretty much just introduced ourselves to the community, and also gave rewards to the brothers. And as of right now, we're
nice.
taking a small break, because number one, the other side of running a program is that the amount of stress that you put yourself under. I think the flip side of the thing that people don't see is that the really the the mental health challenges that sometimes some CEOs or some people that's running these organizations go through. I mean, throughout the
Okay.
program, I developed very, very high anxiety. I mean, I got anxiety even going to my own bedroom because I was thinking about what stuff I had to do, what
Oh
tasks,
wow, wow. So
you
you
know,
you and
yeah,
you're responsible for other
yeah,
lives.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because you think about the grant, running it, make sure the stipends are up. You get
Mm,
so involved with it and in
wow.
their lives, and like I said, I'm act as the founder and also the case manager a lot of times, and it's also
Hmm.
the frustration of sometimes you reach out to some organizations and they don't pick up, or they have the resource and they tell you to
Right.
reach out to them, and you reach out to them, and as the brothers have experienced, they
Yes.
drop the ball. That
Yes.
case managers on vacation, they don't have coverage,
Yes.
you say you're going to meet somewhere, you go to the place and they're no show, and
Hmm.
none of us in this organization get paid for this at all. I'm taking time away from my spouse and everything, my partner, my family,
Right.
my little brothers, and I'm trying to do this thing to better the community, because the first thing that those organizations is going to try to do, or the city's going to try to do, is lock them up. And it's so easy
Right.
to lock them up and put them behind a jail cell instead of engaging. And then when I'm trying to actively change their lives, and all I need for that organization to do exactly what that organization does, and
Exactly.
they don't do it, it builds up a lot. So I mean,
Yeah.
I became a little bit hard for me to sleep. I had to reintroduce myself to therapy. I had to me and my spouse to sit down and have very long conversations about my physical and mental health, because I was deteriorating. So we
Exactly.
yeah, so it gets deep. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. And even through all this, everything didn't end up peachy keen and everything. The brothers all
Hmm.
have a jobs, they're working now, which is great. But of course, there was pushback on some decisions they were making that was
Mm.
detrimental for them, that would have caused
Okay.
recidivate. And of course, they didn't take 100% of what we wanted them to do, but at least they're safe and they have jobs and they finished the process. And now that they're having jobs that they can grow in and everything, that's all that I wanted. But we're looking to take a hiatus until January next year, just so myself and my executive board can regain our physical and mental health, and just
Okay.
make sure we'll take that time. And then once that happens, we'll look to re-engage, bring more brothers into the program, and get the stipend program raised back up. But as of right now, we've been working with the brothers for nearly a year, and that was our first cohort. And we will succeed and get 3 out of 3 into jobs, 3 out of 3 into therapy. But right now, we have to really just take a step back and take these holidays to spend time with our loved ones, because especially during this time, during the pandemic, people have been dropping like flies.
Right.
Have gotten like different ailments, whether it's high blood pressure, sugar, and stuff like that. We got to
Exactly.
ourselves and take personal inventory, and then after that, come back fully charged up with a new plan to healthily take care of these young men and add staff to make sure we can carry out our vision.
Oh, okay. Nice. Nice. And congratulations to you for also receiving the Russ Berry Award
Yes.
for being an unsung hero. And you're right here in Newark.
Yep.
You're not from somewhere, Princeton or across the country,
Born and raised.
coming to grace us with your presence.
Mhm.
You're gracing us with your presence from within. So you know what's going on. You know what's needed. You know what you're doing too. And
Mhm.
I appreciate you for that. And I appreciate you coming on and just talking to the people of Newark and letting them know your organization is out there and that we can support, donate, volunteer, all that good stuff. And as far as like organizations not doing what they're supposed to be doing, we're working on that too.
Mm.
We got a team of activists that I spoke to about this, and they're out there and they're putting pressure on these organizations and asking them, if your mission statement is to do X, Y, and Z for the people, and you're not, how do we hold you accountable?
Right.
And they're leaving that in their lap so
Right.
they could think about that, like, well, what do you wait, what? Yeah, that means you're not providing what you said you would based off of your mission.
Right. Absolutely.
So and it's unfortunate that it has come to that, but there are people out there trying to make that right on that end, because it may be, maybe we have the wrong management in those positions.
Right.
Maybe they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing to make sure that those needs are getting met, but it's definitely been brought to their attention, and I'm hoping within 2 or 3 years things will completely turn around.
Absolutely.
um and you'll have that support from those organizations to do what you do too.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about just staying consistent and all understanding as well is that you won't reach and save everybody and stuff like that. There's a
Right.
saying I always go by is that sometimes we try to deposit a check in a bank account that's not accepting deposits. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's some times where some people just aren't ready to go to that next stage in their lives, and that's okay and everything. But the most
Wow.
important thing that people know and understand is that the brotherhood is always going to be here, and that when they are ready, that we'll be here to support them and help them through that journey as well. And for the organizations that that like I said, sometimes trouble reaching, as we grow and expand, and as our total process get more efficient and engaging and stuff like that, those different roadblocks will go down. But it's important
Yes.
for more of us to kind of just stay the path, invest in self care, but then also look internally at how we can build these systems to make it more efficient, so that we can reach our desired goals at a better pace.
Okay, nice, nice. I just want to read one more comment. I think it's important to share from one of our audience members. Mayo Keenan says, I often encourage my sons to speak with the therapist alone. We had gone to family therapy at Unified Wellsburg when my children were teenagers. I recognized that my family needed help dealing with the teenage experiences.
Right.
Our family needed that connection that therapy offered us.
Yes.
And I'm glad she said that, because it's not about going to therapy for the therapist to give you a diagnosis
Right.
that you're crazy, or you're not an optimum human being. You're a defect.
Right.
Therapy is not about that.
Right.
It's about having a third party
Right.
who's neutral,
Right.
that basically mediates between the two of you, can see things that we can't see ourselves, even though we've been around each other, especially with families. We've
Right.
been around each other our whole lives, but we didn't know something bothered you the way it did, because we just didn't see that.
Yes, absolutely.
We overlooked it.
I absolutely agree. And we have to understand is that it's not about perfection, as you stated before. It's about getting better each and every day. Trying to make a forward step, even if it's an inch, even if it's a millimeter and stuff like that. Looking to move forward, even when we feel as though we have setbacks and stuff like that. The
Exactly.
journey of trying to heal and stuff like that, we might have setbacks, but it's continuously even pushing through the hardest parts of saying like, hey, listen, I don't have enough strength to run a mile, but I have enough strength to get this far. And as long as you can do that, then you can build on that as well and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever finish line or milestone that you have. And I think that's one of the most important things that we have is that therapy is just it's a journey, not something that we
Yes.
like, oh great, I met my destination, I'm here. it's a constantly, because we're humans, our brains are extremely powerful and complex. You know, a
Right.
lot of times I don't think we really give ourselves enough credit about how each one of us have an individual mind that has an individual independent way of thinking, and that
Wow.
it's only one of you. It's only one way of your kind of thoughts and thinking, and you have to learn how to master that amazing processing computer and know how special that is. I
Yes.
think once you're really able to unlock that and see that, we kind of able to kind of see like, wow, I am like, I have to start taking care of this. You know what I'm saying? I got to really
Right.
start investing in this. It's
Yes.
only one. It's only one of me. That's so precious.
Yeah, and it's like you understand how amazing you are individually, but it's not narcissistic or selfish.
Mm-mm. No, it's
It's
realizing.
totally different.
Yes, is realizing that like this individual, which is yourself,
Mhm.
deserves to be treated with respect, deserves
Right.
a healthy environment, deserves to feel that they belong.
Yes.
And I think when it's those things and stuff like that, is that once we really understand our internalize to have those deep internal conversations with ourselves about what makes me happy. How did my brain operate? Not Joe Schmo down the street or Elaine and stuff like that. But
Exactly.
what brings me joy and where's my happy place and how do I protect it and everything. And
Yes.
that's something that I always take from my spouse. My spouse really taught me more about like, hey, in this square that I'm standing in, this is my paradise, and it moves with
Yes.
how do I protect it at all times. That was
Yes.
powerful for me, and that's what I really try to do each and every day. I said that this little square that I'm at, this little like either where I'm at right now, this 4x4 is
Right.
my paradise, and I'm walking with it, and how to make sure I protect it so that nobody else can harm it.
And you know what, the dope thing and amazing thing about that is that you can invite other people
Mm-hmm.
that values themselves
Mm-hmm.
just as you do in your space, and vice versa.
Right.
And that now we have two 4x4s. Now we have an 8x8.
Yeah.
And that's the goal for
Yes.
humanity, period.
Yeah. Because we're social creatures. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. See,
Yep.
see, we here, we're here.
Yeah, yeah. What's the old saying? Like we make the heaven and hell that we live in and stuff like that in this life.
Yes,
You only get
yep,
one of it. You might as well make it the best that it can. But it comes from you. Like like if you want to be get your PhD or you want to get your doctor, if you want to be an amazing painter and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Immerse yourself in your joy and everything.
yes,
Not allow other people to impact that. And when you find another person who loves seeing you happy. And oh my God, there's this piece by this one amazing actor that talked about it. I think it's like the 4 or 5 keys of happiness. And one
wow,
of the keys was surround yourself with people who celebrate your happiness and your joy. You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yes,
Once you immerse yourself, people that love seeing you well and happy. I mean, you're golden. You know, that's
exactly. I agree with
that's what we
that.
try to do. Hmm.
Wow, that's awesome. So, did you have any last words you want to share with the people? Last comments?
Hmm. I think one of my last comments is just a thank you for having me on here and giving my organization a platform. It's things like this that really help spread the message and let people know that what we're trying to do is positive for the community. And
Mm-hmm.
the other message for everybody out there is that, as difficult as things may see right now and everything, just know that there is a village for you and that people that deeply care about you. But what you
Yes,
have to do is you have to continue to fight and live and everything, not survive, live. Because once you're able to find that village, whether it's a group of people, your loved one, or even if you're looking to have children, that's where you can find your paradise and your happy place. But you can't do that if you are participating in self harm or if you're looking to end your life. There's just so much more of this world you haven't seen and so much joy you haven't seen.
yes.
It's just continuously taking it day by day, step by step, and then going into your paradise that you deserve.
Wow, nicely said. Quadeer Porter of Brothers Building a Better Nation. I
Yep.
like the way that sounds too.
Thank
BBBN.
you. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And, this has been Current Exposure. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you later. We're out of here. Peace.
Bye bye.